Trump maintains blockade, despite Hormuz opening. In a significant diplomatic development, President Donald Trump has welcomed Iran's announcement that the Strait of Hormuz is now fully open for commercial passage. However, the president clarified that the United States naval blockade will remain in full force specifically against Iran until a pending transaction is 100% complete. Trump expressed optimism regarding the timeline, noting that the process should conclude very quickly since the majority of sticking points have already been negotiated. The administration continues to view the blockade as a primary mechanism for maintaining pressure on Tehran to finalize the deal. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed the opening of the strait for all commercial vessels following the ceasefire in Lebanon. This declaration led to a swift 10% drop in crude oil prices. Meanwhile, Trump touted a very successful negotiation, suggesting a deal could lead to free-flowing oil and regional stability. A central component of these talks involves Iran surrendering its highly enriched uranium, which Trump refers to as nuclear dust. The president stated that the U.S. intends to work with Iran to locate and remove all material buried following previous military strikes on nuclear facilities. Next news. Macron defends editorial diversity amid Grasset author exodus. President Emmanuel Macron has voiced his support for editorial independence, following a mass resignation of over 100 authors from the prestigious French publishing house Grasset. The protest was sparked by the growing influence of conservative billionaire Vincent Bolloré, whose media outlets have notably shifted toward far-right themes. In an open letter, prominent writers expressed their refusal to become ideological hostages in a perceived war on culture. Speaking at the Paris Book Festival, Macron emphasized the critical importance of upholding diversity and respecting the historical identities of France's venerable publishing institutions. The mass departure follows the abrupt exit of Grasset's chief executive Olivier Nora, reportedly after a dispute involving the publication of a book by writer Boualem Sansal. While Bolloré has previously dismissed criticisms as being a scapegoat in a power struggle, the authors remain firm in their stance. Founded in 1907, Grasset now faces a significant transition as its contributors fight to keep their intellectual work independent from corporate ideological agendas. Next news. Starmer under fire over Mandelson's overruled security vetting. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing intense political pressure after revelations that former U.S. Ambassador Peter Mandelson failed security vetting before his appointment. Reports indicate the Foreign Office overruled the failure to ensure Mandelson could assume the post. Starmer expressed fury on Friday, claiming he was unaware of the vetting status while previously assuring Parliament that due process was followed. The Prime Minister has accused Mandelson of a litany of deceit regarding his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which led to his removal from the diplomatic service in September. Opposition leaders, including Kemi Badenoch and Ed Davey, are demanding Starmer take full responsibility, suggesting he must resign if he misled the House of Commons. Downing Street maintains that officials granted the clearance without informing government ministers. Starmer has promised to present the relevant facts to Parliament on Monday to contain the fallout ahead of crucial May elections. The controversy adds to existing tensions as the administration navigates diplomatic challenges regarding the Israel-Iran conflict. Next news. India and China hold first bilateral consultations on SCO matters. India and China conducted their inaugural bilateral consultations on Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) matters in New Delhi on April 16 and 17. Led by national coordinators Alok A. Dimri and Yan Wenbin, the delegations discussed the implementation of leadership decisions and the organization's future roadmap. Both nations agreed to consolidate mutual cooperation across key sectors, including security, trade, connectivity, and people-to-people ties. The delegations also met with Secretary West Sibi George to review ongoing engagement within the framework. India, a member since 2017, continues to advocate for a secure SCO, focusing on economic development and sovereignty. This meeting underscores a commitment to sustain dialogue and regional cooperation among the 10 member states, aimed at enriching the SCO's multifaceted agenda. Next news. Drone attacks and Hormuz blockade strain global fertilizer trade. Russian billionaire Andrei Melnichenko, founder of Eurochem, warned on Friday that Ukrainian drone strikes are significantly impacting Russia's nitrogen fertilizer industry. A February attack on the Dorogobush plant, owned by Akron, killed 7 people and sidelined 5% of Russia's total production capacity. This disruption coincides with the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical conduit for 1/3 of the global fertilizer trade, sparking major food security concerns. Melnichenko noted that while Middle Eastern phosphate producers are quickly bypassing the Gulf, nitrogen production remains heavily affected due to its reliance on regional natural gas. Although Russia accounts for 1/5 of global trade, domestic export caps and recent infrastructure damage constrain its output. Consequently, Russia recently announced a 1-month suspension of ammonium nitrate exports to stabilize domestic supply. Next news. Brampton man arrested for $1 million theft of Jamaica relief aid. Peel Regional Police have arrested a 40-year-old Brampton man, Verinder Dillon, in connection with the theft of hurricane relief supplies valued at over $1 million. On December 3, 2025, a suspect used a transport truck to steal a shipping container from a Mississauga storage facility. The container was filled with essential goods, including clothing and food, destined for victims of Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica. Investigators from the Commercial Auto Crime Bureau identified Dillon, who was already on probation for similar offenses and under an indefinite driving prohibition. Following a search warrant executed in March, police recovered the stolen property and returned it to the rightful owners. The aid has since been successfully shipped to Kingston for distribution. Dillon now faces multiple charges, including break and enter, theft over $5,000, and breach of probation. He remains in custody as authorities continue their investigation into the large-scale theft. Next news. Norway champions foreign aid as bulwark for democratic values. Norway continues to distinguish itself as a global leader in development, maintaining its foreign aid at 1% of gross national income, despite widespread cuts across Europe. Backed by its $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund, the country is doubling down on international solidarity, at a time when nations like the UK and Germany have reduced their commitments. For Norway's development minister, Asmund Aukrust, this mission is deeply personal. A survivor of the 2011 Utøya terrorist attack, Aukrust views well-funded aid and multilateralism as essential tools to combat the hatred and authoritarianism that threaten liberal, diverse societies. Beyond ideological defense, Norway's strategy addresses practical global threats including climate change, migration, and health crises. While acknowledging the need for internal UN reforms and private sector involvement, the administration remains committed to high funding levels for humanitarian crises in Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan. Notably, Norway has stepped in to fill voids left by the United States, particularly in areas like reproductive rights and tropical forest conservation. As populism rises elsewhere, Aukrust asserts that maintaining a secure global order through aid is a matter of both principled international law and national self-interest. Next news. BBC investigation uncovers syringe reuse in Pakistan HIV outbreak. A BBC investigation has revealed critical safety lapses at THQ Hospital in Tonsa, Pakistan, where 331 children tested positive for HIV between late 2024 and October 2025. Undercover footage shows staff repeatedly reusing syringes on multi-dose vials and neglecting basic hygiene protocols, such as wearing gloves. Experts state these practices likely caused the surge, as data ruled out mother-to-child transmission in most cases. Despite the suspension of the medical superintendent in March 2025 and claims of zero tolerance for unsafe procedures, the investigation suggests these life-threatening habits persisted months later. While hospital authorities dispute the findings, families of victims, including an 8-year-old who died, continue to blame contaminated equipment for the devastating outbreak in Punjab province. Next news. Kremlin labels European drone cooperation direct involvement in war. The Kremlin stated on Friday that European nations are becoming increasingly involved in the Ukraine conflict, citing a Russian Defense Ministry report on continent-wide drone production. On Wednesday, the ministry warned against plans to escalate drone supplies to Kyiv and released a list of facilities in several countries, including Britain, Germany, Poland, and Israel, alleging they manufacture drone components. Former President Dmitry Medvedev intensified the rhetoric by labeling these factories potential military targets, warning European partners that strikes could become a reality. When asked if Russia was genuinely considering such actions, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov declined a direct answer, asserting that European involvement is growing. These developments signal a heightening of tensions as Moscow continues to frame Western industrial support for Ukraine as a provocative escalation. Next news. U.S. seeks removal of wrongly deported Salvadoran to Liberia. The Trump administration has finalized plans to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran national, to Liberia, despite his legal team's offer for him to self-deport to Costa Rica. Abrego Garcia, who has lived in Maryland for years, became a focal point of immigration policy after he was mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March 2025, in violation of a court order. Following a Supreme Court-backed mandate for his return, he was brought back to the U.S. in June 2025, only to face criminal human smuggling charges, which his attorneys argue are vindictive and a product of selective prosecution. Government attorneys told a federal judge this week that Liberia is the final country of removal, citing extensive negotiations and political capital spent to secure the agreement. Although Costa Rica has agreed to take him and recently signed a deal to accept other U.S. deportees, ICE officials argue that sending Abrego Garcia there would be prejudicial to the United States. Currently, a federal judge is blocking the deportation, questioning the viability of sending him to a nation he has never visited while his criminal case remains pending. A follow-up hearing to determine the next steps is scheduled for April 28.